Hello all. How you doing? How you doing? It's been a minute. I do apologize for the delay. Been going through some challenges and I can't allow it to stop me from progressing and keeping my commitment to myself. So I'm committed to putting out this podcast every single week. So I'm hoping that you hang in there with me and you stay and you invite your friends, tell people to come check me out. So it's been a while. Episode number 9. Episode number 9. Welcome to the comfort zone. This is the place where you come to find out if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone or not. But remember, you're right either way. I'm your host, Donna E. Williams, owner of Donna's Touch LLC, where transformation happens, where growth and leadership happen, where moderators happen, where I have developed a safe space for people of all races, genres, affiliation, to join my support group, our safe space, where everything that you said in that space is confidential. You talk about things that are on your mind that you wish to discuss. The other thing that happens at Donna's Touch is everything I touch comes from the heart. So coaching happens here too. If you're looking to be unstuck, if you want to move forward and make some changes in your life that you've been unable to make, I'm your girl. Check me out. Go to donnastouch.com. Text me, email me, Donna at donnastouch.com. I'll put all of that in the description. So, we're at episode number 9. What are we going to talk about today? Today's topic is a perfect mess. A perfect mess. Well, is there any such thing? Yes, there is. And I'm sure if you've had any experiences where things didn't go well, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say a perfect mess. So let me share with you a little bit of how I got to this topic. So every day I do devotional. I read prayer, I read scripture, I read different books. And I read 2 books. One is by a good friend of mine, Lonnie Mendez, called Nurture the Soul. And those are daily affirmations. And the other one is written by a more famous person that we know, that you all may know, Iyanla Vanzant, titled Acts of Faith, Daily Affirmations for People of Color. So these affirmations are tailored to people of color, and they're daily. So I don't remember what day this was, but she challenged the reader for that day to remember a perfect mess that's happened in their life. And I had started thinking, I said, a perfect mess. I said, oh my goodness, that's a good podcast topic. You know, for people who are in their comfort zone or who haven't stepped out of their comfort zone, you know, you may be in that mess now. You could still be in your perfect mess. The perfect mess of a marriage, the perfect mess of your finances, the perfect mess of your relationship with your children, the perfect mess of your job, the perfect mess of the people that you work with and the people you work for and the people you report to. The perfect mess of just not doing or being where it is you want to be in your life. So you become accustomed to living in that perfect mess. Is that really where you want to be? All right. So I was reading the affirmation. I said, yeah, that's a good podcast topic. So I decided, of course, I'm going to talk about my perfect mess. And I have to say, I've had several. I've had several perfect messes. I would have never called them that until it was brought to my attention that this may be what's going on. So, what I really appreciate about even being able to talk about a perfect mess is the fact that I was able to move past the mess. And I want to talk to you about what I did, how I moved past it, and if I can help you move past yours, reach out to me. Hmm. Picture it, Long Island, 1979. If you know, you know. You know that's a Sophia line. Picture it, Sicily, 1855. I'm riding on a donkey. No, I love her. I love the Golden Girls. I love them, and Sophia was got so much wisdom. So anyway, I was going to school. It's my first year in college. I was 19. It was my first semester in college. I was 19 years old, and I was involved. I was in a relationship with a guy. He was a little older than me. He was working. He wasn't in college, and I was. So as time would have it, I think I went home for some type of break we had in school. I went home. I might have just went home for the weekend because the school I went to, shout out to old Westbury, out there in Hicksville, Long Island. Um, Sometimes we didn't have school on Wednesday, so you can go home Tuesday and come back Thursday. So I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, I went home, got together with my friend. Well, he was my man. Let me stop belittling it. He was my significant other. And we got together, and I didn't want to. See, you know what? The more I think about this situation, the more I remember. I remember I didn't want to have sex. I didn't want to. But he used a line on me that later on, when my dad and I were talking about it, and I didn't tell him about the situation, we were talking about something else. He was explaining to me some of the lines that men use to get to have their way with women. He says, "Don't worry, I'm just gonna put the head in," and I got pregnant. So apparently, the head is all you need. I'm just saying. So now, for some of you, listen, I don't care. It's funny. Okay. Anyway, so oh man, I got pregnant. So here's the dilemma. Perfect match. I'm like, first year is college. First year of college. I'm just starting. And at the time, my parents were divorced. My mom, I'm living with my mom. My father told me a while back, maybe about a year or 2 years, I'm not sure, but he told me a while back that if I ever got pregnant, I wasn't married, I was on my own. He wasn't going to help me raise the child. That's what he told me. So I basically, and pretty much my dad, pretty much whenever he said something, that's what he meant. And I never forgot it. And my relationship with my mother was the relationship with my mother was just starting out. I have been a caregiver for my mom since I was the age of 10, and I've shared that with you already because my mother had a mental illness. But what I did not share with you was that I did not always know why, what the illness was and what really was going on with her. Because I never really had the opportunity to take the time. So now I'm living with her. So I'm taking the time to get to know her, but it's new. So if I'm being honest about it, I really didn't, at that time, I didn't trust her judgment. I didn't know, and I didn't think to ask her, which has been one of my biggest regrets that I didn't trust her. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so here's my dilemma. And then the man who I was with had two children that he already was not taking care of. And I didn't want to be number three, and I didn't want to be the third baby mama. So I wasn't really feeling that. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was in my mind, that was a perfect mess. So I made a decision. I decided to terminate the pregnancy. The only person I told was my roommate. Love her to this day. That's my bestie, and she's now my soror as well. But she was the only person I told. And when of course, you need money because now I'm terminating the pregnancy, so I need money to take care of it. And I called the guy, and he was like, "Ask your father for it." I was like, "I didn't sleep with my father." He said, "Well, you go to him for everything else, so go to him for this." I was like, "Whoa." I think on some level, the man felt some kind of way that I wanted to terminate his child. But like I said, he had two kids he was not taking care of. That's why you have to be careful about who you lay down with. You have to be so careful with who you decide to share your body with. Because when these things happen, and I'm talking about on the man's part as well as the woman's part, um, you're tied to this person for life and their DNA. Don't forget that part, their DNA. Okay, so anyway, my bestie took care of it. She took me to the place and we took care of it. Like I said, I never told her so. I lived with guilt for that decision because I always thought it was a boy. And I always felt that if I had enough faith and trusted and asked for help, that I would have been able to have that baby and raise that baby. But I lived with guilt for a long time. And I didn't, I know now that I wasn't mature enough to handle a baby at 19. And I know now that that was probably the best decision to make. But the guilt came from the fact that I terminated the pregnancy, not that I had a miscarriage or anything happened. I was the one that was responsible for that baby not being here. So that was the guilt I felt for years. I wasn't talking to God then. I wasn't in the place in my journey, with the walk with the Lord that I am now. But I also feel that things happen for a reason. And I thought for a long time I wasn't going to be able to get pregnant or have kids. But I also know that at the time that I did become a mom, which at the right old age of 55, I had a lot more maturity under my belt. I had got that running around out of the way. I did a whole lot of stuff that I wanted to do. And I was in a better position mentally to be able to handle this responsibility. But you don't always know that at the time because when you are going through your perfect mess or dealing with your perfect mess or not dealing with your perfect mess, you're not always sure which way you should go, what you should do. And thankful for me that I did have a roommate that had resources and was able to provide me with the help that I needed. But I want to share something else with you. This happened at a time when when women when young girls or women wanted to have abortions, they didn't have conversations with them. There was like a I'm not sure what you would call it, but I guess some type of process where you would talk to the mother to be and find out and let her know what her options were. If she wanted to give the baby up for adoption, if she thought that maybe she could have the baby, before she would terminate the pregnancy, they would have discussions with them, and that didn't happen with me because at the time those things weren't being done. That happened, I think it started happening in 1985, and we're talking about 1980. And I'll never forget when they did come out and they started talking about how they were having these processes where they were talking to mothers. I was like, wow, if somebody had said that to me, that I could have the baby and gave the baby up for adoption, that was an option. But I didn't even think that far. Never thought that far. I just couldn't see myself being pregnant, right? I just couldn't. So the guilt I felt about that, and then the guilt I felt about not being able to have kids and never having children. I got pregnant two more times. But I thought both times, because they were miscarriages, that this was God punishing me for terminating that pregnancy. I lived with that for a long time. It was the only thing I ever said that I felt guilty about. But then I had to really come to terms with the other part of what I felt guilty about and not trusting my mom. Because when this story came up years later and I told her about it, she said, I would have helped you raise that baby. No, no problem. No question. I would help you raise the baby. But you didn't come to me. You didn't tell me. And she remembers what happened the time when I came home after the whole incident and I went to the clinic. She remembers because I spent the whole weekend in the living room on the couch. Now I have a room. I had a room. I was at her house. I lived there. I had a room and I had a bed. I spent the whole weekend. I mean, I was in another state of mind. And my father, when he found out about it, or when I told him about it was long past the time where I could have a child. And when he wanted a grandchild, he was like, I'm hoping, I'm wondering one day if you give me one. I was like, oh, that ship has sailed. I said, when you told me that you weren't going to help me take care of it, there was no question. I didn't even have the baby. So he was like, wow. He felt sorry. He felt bad because he wished he had never told me that. But sometimes when people tell you stuff and it impacts you negatively, they don't always remember what they tell you, and they don't remember when they say it. But the person who it's said to remembers, and I remember. I remember almost everything my father said about me negatively. That's a whole nother podcast about how your self esteem and your confidence can take a beating by what people who you care and love say things to you that impact you negatively. We're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, we're going to stay on the subject of a perfect mess. So I wish I could tell you that it was just one thing in particular that shook me or that resonated in my head and said, girl, you need to wake up and forgive yourself and be all right and move on. But it wasn't. It was a series of things. And the important part about things like that is don't beat yourself up. Really, really forgive yourself because you're human and we make mistakes. We don't always get it right. We don't always get it right. And if we're lucky, we'll make a mistake and we get a chance to do something different or do something better the next time around. You get an opportunity to have a child. You get an opportunity to raise a child. I got an opportunity to raise a child and not go through the pain of giving having childbirth. That's a blessing for real, from what I hear. So anyway, um, anyway, I feel like you have to forgive yourself. That's number one. Forgive yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I forgive you. I forgive you for hurting you, for treating you badly, for that mistake that I made. And then forgive others. Because I was mad at that man because I was like, we went through this together. As a matter of fact, I didn't want to. And here we go. Just left me hanging out there, which I believe if I had that baby, he'd have left me hanging out there. So there are sometimes where there are decisions that you make that you don't even realize the impact that it might have on you later on in life. So if you give yourself some grace, you might be able to see that God was in the mix one way or the other. And the other thing, the bigger thing was I needed to relieve myself of the guilt I felt for my mom and how I didn't trust her. That was the most impactful. That was more impactful than terminating the pregnancy because Had I just asked for help, had I just trusted her, things would have been different. Things would have been different. And even when I would be given, even if I was given the responsibility of taking care of my child and the responsibility of taking care of my goddaughter now, my child would have been a grown person. So I'm quite sure that I would have had help with them as well. You know what I'm saying? So you just don't know, and I never will know. Can't go back. It's over. It's gone. Long, long time ago. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you and help you to understand that whatever your perfect mess is, if you're in it now, if you had one before, and you're still walking around and carrying the guilt from it, please forgive yourself. Please forgive yourself. Let it go. There's nothing you can do about it, especially if it's something that happened already. There's nothing you can do about it. It's past. It's over. It's done. And if you have an opportunity to do something different and to make it better, then make it better. Don't wallow in it. Don't say I can't. Don't say I don't know what to do. Just make it better. And like I said, if you need me, I'm here. So I just want you all to celebrate your life. Because the more you celebrate life, the more life there is to celebrate. See you next time on the Comfort Zone.